Today I'll be demonstrating the figure 8 cast on. This is great whenever you want a seamless double-sided start to a pattern, and really works great for rectangular starts like toe-up socks, purses, square blankets, or hooded scarves. First we'll start with a slip knot, and then holding both needles parallel to each other and using the working end of the yarn, not the tail. You'll start by going over and between each needle in a figure 8 pattern, hence its name. And you'll just continue working that pattern until you have the number of stitches required for your pattern. I prefer using the circular needles for this cast on because it gives you a little bit more room to work. However, if you're only doing a few stitches, you could do it with deep double pointed needles. And so I usually get rid of my slip knot in my patterns because I don't like the knot. And so I'll end on the same needle as my slip knot is on. So I've got 2, 4, 6, 8 stitches, 2, 4, 6, 8 stitches on each needle. And when you're ready to start working, you'll just turn the stitches around into your left hand. And if you're using DPNs, you'd start working with your third DPN. Since I'm using the circular needles, I'll slide out my bottom needle and start working into my stitches in the pattern in the stitch pattern called for in your pattern. I'm just going to knit all the stitches for this first row. Okay, and I've gotten to the end of one more stitch. I've gotten to the end of my row, and so I'm going to flip the stitches around to work the second side. And your stitches may seem a little tight, but they'll be plenty loose, trust me. Okay, pulling out the other side, and I'm going to take my slip knot off the needle, and you can just drop it. I prefer to work the first 2 stitches with the tail and working end of the yarn to help secure it. You'll also see that the stitches are backwards on the needle for the second side, and you can decide whether to work it through the back loop or the front loop. I prefer working through the front loop because it twists the stitch and just helps tension up that cast on a little bit. But if you prefer, you can work through the back loop for an untwisted stitch. So I'll work the first 2 stitches with the tail, and I'll drop that tail out of there and continue knitting across. If you find your cast on is too loose, you can work it on 1 or 2 sizes of smaller needles, or you can use the tail when you're finished your work to weave back through the stitches to help tighten them up. And this is the finished cast on, and as you can see, it'll be a fairly seamless start to whatever pattern I'm working.